Hello, and welcome to Horror Rewind. This is Kelly Florence.
And this is Mark Florence.
And today we're talking about Creep. This is a found footage style movie from 2014. Only two people in it, Mark Duplass and Patrick Bryce. I think that's his name. That's also the director. And so these two dudes just got together and made a movie, I feel like. I mean, maybe it's not as simple as that. I mean, there's obviously like lighting people and set designers and sound crew and everything, but it just seems like what a brilliant, probably inexpensive way to make a cool horror movie.
100% agree. Yeah, I mean, this movie probably costs like a couple $100,000 at the most.
Let's look it up. Go to the Wikipedia page. They usually list budget there. I'm curious now. And then we can also double check that I said his name correctly, the director. The setting was really beautiful. It's in California at this cabin in the mountains. They go on this hiking scene to find this water well that has it's like a heart shape. It's supposed to have healing waters. I mean, that's all beautiful. Of course, the premise is that this guy is hiring a filmmaker he's hiring this guy to document supposedly a video for his son that because he's dying of cancer. We find out not too much later that this is not true at all, and he's just a creep.
Yeah, and I recognize this guy from the TV show The League, about a fantasy football league, and he's great in that. He's super funny. What's his name? Mark Duplass. And now I've seen him in the morning show and now this. So I thought he was just like a comedic actor, but he's pretty good in various roles.
You know, this is 89% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. Oh, this is Patrick Bryce, and it's his directorial debut. And he and Mark Duplass wrote the story together. So the director said that this movie was inspired by his experiences with Craigslist, which is like, okay, that's creepy. And then the movies My Dinner with Andre, Misery, and Fatal Attraction. That is so... That's a really good comparison. I'm just going to search, and I can edit this out if it gets too long and boring. I'm just going to see... Oh, $7 million. Wait, but this says how to make a $1,000 feature film. Yeah, that's not right.
I was going to say really quick, I should start reading these articles and stuff before we do the podcast so I can steal all their takes.
There you go. But really, it is fun to research it. Well, at least before we record. Maybe not before we watch it.
I know, but when he said it's like Misery and Fatal Attraction, like...
Oh, you could have said that, you're saying.
Yeah, then I would have said that, and people would have thought I was awesome.
I see. You know, just some creepy things, obviously. He obviously takes his keys and they disappear because he's trying to keep him there, and he just is like, oh, we're like best friends now and stuff, which is gross. And then obviously probably the creepiest part is when he tells him to turn off the camera because he's going to make a confession. And he keeps the audio on. And I was saying this would have been so creepy to see in the theater because the screen is just black. I mean, we had the closed captioning on, but if it was just black and you just hear him telling the story about how he raped his wife in a wolf mask, like, wow.
So that's obviously not true because he doesn't even have a wife and he's not dying of cancer. So, I mean, it's just so weird that he would, I don't know, it's just so unsettling, like, everything this guy says. Because you really don't believe him from the beginning, but, I mean... It's just so weird.
Speaking of the wolf mask, he ends up putting it on and then like blocking the door, so the guy Aaron can't get out. And that was such a creepy shot. And the wolf mask is really scary.
Yeah, very scary. And when Aaron's talking to him, when he's wearing the wolf mask, he doesn't talk back. He just like either shakes his head really slowly or like nods his head. He's like, are you gonna let me out? And the guy's like, he just shakes his head really slowly in the wolf mask.
And he's like, "Are you trying to scare me?" And he nods his head.
Yeah, it's a super, super sweet visual. So even though this was like a found footage thing, there was a lot of sweet camera shots, I thought.
Something that I realized came back into play, of course. They're on the hike, and Mark Duplass says, when you saw that axe outside my house, did you think I was going to kill you with it? And he's like, yeah. And in the end, he does end up killing him with it.
Yes. And that last scene was very hard to watch, I thought.
And that's what I was saying. It's like the camera's far away. It never moves. But the anticipation, because you just know it's not going to end well. The anticipation, and then you see Duplass approaching. You see that he's got something tucked into, a couple of things tucked into his trench coat. We find out he's got the wolf mask underneath, and then he had set the axe down next to him. And he puts that mask on and just goes. And it's all one shot, one take. I don't know how they did it to make it believable that the axe went into his head. But there were no cuts or anything. It was that was not a pun intended. But it was so disturbing.
So according to this article here, it says they shot 10 to 12 different versions of almost every scene. And they had multiple scenarios of how the thing could end.
Interesting. I wonder how they decided how then, in editing or what?
I think they showed it to different audiences, and that's the one. I think that's the one that they decided to go with.
Interesting. Well, it was also cool to see that he, obviously keeps repeating this pattern, and he's been hiring videographers or filmmakers. He opens up his closet, and there's all sorts of VHS tapes. It looks like there's even maybe a film canister, and then of course now his DVD collection. So he is a serial killer, and we are going to watch next and record on this episode about Creep 2. So I assume it's more of the same, but a different take.
Yeah, I'm interested to watch the second one because this guy seems to do this like all the time. But he did seem to have a certain love and admiration for the Aaron guy. So, I mean, Aaron should feel pretty special about that, I guess.
No, don't say that, Mark. You're just enabling stalkers right now.
I apologize. I take it back.
It was like a creepy thing. And not because it was a guy, but if it was just anyone, they just met you and they want to be your best friend. It's like, okay, back off a little bit.
And you had a good point during it. Well, after the guy is back at his house and he's a couple weeks later, he's still scared and he hears something in the night and he turns all the lights on and he's all scared. And you're like, usually you see like a small woman in this role, like being terrorized, but it was like this big guy. So that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, and I also like that a lot of scary things happen in broad daylight. Like he got, the creepy packages or DVDs in the daylight, and like that whole hike and meal that they had together was in broad daylight, and you still didn't feel safe. Well, he was even killed in broad daylight in a public place. And so that's usurping our expectations because, you just don't expect it. You expect everything to happen scary at night in the dark. There were a couple red flags, though. He's like, we got to go get the best pancakes in the world. And then he's like, well, let's see what's good here, at the restaurant. And he's like, wait, didn't you say it was pancakes? And didn't you come here all the time with your family? And then he just had to play it off like, well, they changed the menu. But it's all like, what?
And he also did talk to the guy's sister on the phone, Angela, who we thought was his wife. But she's just like, get out of there. Just start walking. You have to leave. And the guy was passed out. Joseph was passed out by the fireplace. So when he comes out of the bathroom, done talking to her, he's going to leave, but then Joseph's just gone.
Ugh. Yeah, that would be an icky feeling. He had roofied him with something. We were like, what did he put in there? But we find out later it was Benadryl, which, Mark, I've seen you take Benadryl twice in your life, and both times you passed out. Yeah,
and one of the times I was going to watch like the NFC Championship game, and you're like, yeah, this is non-drowsy.
I thought it was.
So I took it, and like an hour or two later, I couldn't like function.
Oh, that's the only way I get you to not watch sports, right?
Were you trying to roofie me?
Yeah, so you wouldn't watch sports for one day in your life. As we're recording this, sports is on in the background. So
the U.S. Open golf tournament, to be exact.
I took Benadryl once, and if you remember, it was like dead cold, like 40 below February, and I got cold urticaria, which is an allergic reaction to extreme cold, and I started breaking out in hives, which is nuts. That's never happened before, but I was locked out of your dorm, and my car wouldn't start, and so it's actually your fault. But I took Benadryl, and I was totally loopy and out of it, and I remember, like, you were watching Dave Chappelle, and I, like, woke up, and I'm like, give me my Powerade. You're like, you don't have a Powerade. That's my memory of being on Benadryl. Good times. We should get some Benadryl and just
fall asleep.
Later tonight, let's do it. Yeah, we're old. This is like the thing we have to look forward to. Let's go to bed early.
Definitely. I also thought it was interesting how he's like sending him those DVDs, and he's like, the first one was him like burying a body. Then the second one was like him apologizing, I think.
Well, he told him to like dig into that wolf because there's something hidden in there, and it was that heart locket.
Yeah. Oh, God. Would you wear that thing?
No, I wouldn't have even reached into the wolf. I would have immediately gone to the police, I think, because I was expecting him to like pull out an eyeball or something.
But he tries to go to the police, and the police are very, very unhelpful.
Well, he really was giving them nothing to go on, though. He didn't know the guy's name. He knew his first name, but it was probably fake. He didn't know a last name. He didn't know his address. He had no way of contacting him. I mean, I guess you could just say, send a car over, but I don't know. I think even when people really are being stalked and they have all the information, I feel like law enforcement can't necessarily do much. Or they don't. I don't know.
Yeah, that's the problem. That was the problem here. Like, no information. And the guy was obviously, like, being terrorized. Like, the last DVD found, like, the guy cut the screen and, like, put it in his bedroom window.
Oh, my God. One of the creepiest scenes is when he's sleeping and Duplass is in there and he literally does a full body up and down shot of the guy sleeping. And, again, normally I feel like that would be a woman and it would be, like, sexualized or something. But this was just very matter of fact. And, like, look at the power I have over you. You don't even know I'm in here right now and I'm filming you. Like, disgusting.
Yeah, and then he cut, like, a lock of his hair off.
Oh, yeah.
So that was... Another suspenseful scene was when the guy was passed out from the Benadryl, and he wants to get into his pocket to see if his keys are in there. But the guy's kind of loopy, and he keeps kind of, like, half waking up and doing all this stuff. So, well done scene there.
So good. Now, Mark, should we rank this movie first or should we rank them both at the end?
I think we have to rank them separately because sometimes sequels aren't as good as the original.
Okay. Let's rank Creep on a scale of 0 to 10. 0 being you hated it, 10 being you think it's a perfect movie. I mean, are we going to use the wolf masks?
I think that's a good idea, yeah. It was called Peach Fuzz.
Ugh. How many Peach Fuzz wolf masks do you give Creep?
I'm going to go with the 9 wolf masks. I was just looking for something to watch before bed last night, and I literally went through 200 movies. First on Apple TV, which seemingly you have to buy every movie, which doesn't make any sense. So then I went over to Netflix. Kelly recommended this because I think she'd seen it previously. And, really enjoyed it. Different concept. I like the concept.
I like it too. Like, it's found footage, yet they both are the filmmakers in parts. And, they even like flip the camera and film the video that they're showing or the other person made. Like, it's just it's a different take on the format.
Yeah. Like when the guy's like, tell me something you're ashamed about. Joseph does. And so this guy goes into this long story about how he used to pee his pants when he was a kid, and his mom like attached some alarm to his underwear or something. And he peed his pants, and then the alarm is going off, and he's just laying on the playground, like all sad. And then Joseph reveals the thing he's ashamed of is he took a bunch of pictures of the guy when he showed up.
Oh God, weirdo. What a creep. I'm going to rank this, Wolf Masks. I'm going to give it 8. Yeah, I enjoy it. I think it's well done. One of my favorite shots I saw is used as the poster. He's shooting up the steps and like the security outdoor lights are shining on him and you can't see his face. And it's just really creepy.
Yeah, I like those. It's like that contradiction or whatever, or
Juxtaposition?
no, I don't know what the right word is. Like between you want to be like socially polite, but you also like want to get the F out of there. Because the guy obviously realized something was wrong with this guy. So he just wanted to leave. But the guy's like, oh, come on in and have, like, I was going to pour you a whiskey and we can, you know, I'm going to die in 2 months or whatever. So it was like, he really just wanted to leave because he knew, but, yeah, that was a great, you couldn't see his face, but you could tell how, like, sad he was that the guy was going to leave and, like, he thought they were, like, best friends.
I think that is so true. And we have that sort of as a Minnesota nice thing in our culture where we live. Like, if someone invites you for coffee, you know, like you stay, or if if they have dessert, you take it, and, if they offer or whatever. And if it's like, oh no, just come in, for one more and blah, blah, blah. Well, I bought this especially for you. Like, of course, you're not going to say no, to be polite. And so, yeah, it could get you in some uncomfortable situations.
And that's how I get in trouble with you a lot, Kelly. Like, somebody would be like, hey, let's have another beer or something like that. And I'm more on, like, the being socially nice to them versus, like, hey, no, I got to go home and do this or whatever. So I apologize. Yeah,
I'm always like, when are you going to be home? I'll just have one more. Well, 3 hours later.
Sorry about that.
But I know it's not because of amount of drinks you're consuming. It's just that you chat it up and you sip on one beer for like an hour and a half.
Yeah. Or 2, maybe 2. But no, I'm bad at getting out of conversations. And I was trying to be like the guy in the movie sometimes where I'm like, no, I got to go home. It's a long winding road down or whatever. But I still end up always staying.
You always get talked into it. Be careful because you're going to get taken advantage of by a creep someday.
Hopefully.
No, stop it. You again are enabling creepers. Mark, you're inviting them into your life.
This does remind me, I don't know, and you can edit this out, but I was recently somewhat stalked like this. Maybe I shouldn't even talk about it.
Well, you don't say who, but yeah, it did happen.
Where, yeah, somebody was threatening me for no reason at all. And they weren't really all there. They were like texting me, sending me Facebook messages and trying to call me and stuff. So luckily that I think they got arrested. So I think we're good.
See, that you cannot wish for, like this for yourself or others because that's creepy. Okay, we're going to go watch the second movie. We'll be back in the second half of this episode with Creep 2. Right now, Meg has a book recommendation. Take a listen.
Hey, you spooky readers. It's Meg with my little spooky book club, and I'm so excited to talk to you about today's book. I just finished it yesterday, so it's really fresh in my mind. And I want to tell you spoilers and tell you the whole plot, but I'm not going to, okay? I promise. So this book is called Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno Garcia. Now, this is my first time reading this author, but she has quite a few novels under her belt. She is known for writing speculative fiction, and Kirsten, one of my good friends, said that she's a big fan of some books that she wrote with vampires in it. I'm not the biggest vampire reader, but I am intrigued now that I've read this book. I might go back and see what else she's written. So why did I love this book? First, it's called Mexican Gothic. So that right there is probably enough for you to figure out why I picked it up. Also, the cover is this beautiful Hispanic woman with a gorgeous 1950s style dress because it takes place in 1950 and this Gothic wallpaper behind her. And that's all I really needed. That, and also I was just hearing amazing, wonderful things about the book. So what did I do? I bought it immediately. Okay, I read it pretty fast because it is so well written and so good. Yesterday I read like probably 2 or 3 hours straight because I just had to finish it. What I love about it, and this is what I had heard about it, is that it's very much in the vein of my favorite novels, which are Jane Eyre and Rebecca and basically all the Bronte sisters novels, Wuthering Heights. And what those novels have that I love so much is an incredible sense of setting. Rebecca, it makes you believe that Manderley exists, and you can feel every corridor, and you can just picture every flower in its garden. And that is how Morena Garcia writes this novel. High Place, the house in the novel, which is in rural Mexico, is, oh my gosh, it is the most Gothic setting you could imagine. And the fact that it's in the 1950s, sort of in this rural area, really helps create the atmosphere. Not to mention, the main character, Nomi, her fashion, she's a socialite from Mexico City. I loved reading about her fashion. I wouldn't even describe myself as the most fashion forward person or fashion interested person, but the description of her outfits and like imagining her in like sort of a Hitchcock like movie with her outfits, oh my God, that was one of my favorite parts. So not only does it have this incredible sense of place, like those Gothic novels, and atmosphere. I mean, we're talking like fog over the cemetery. We're talking everything that my little goth heart loves. But it also has a great sense of character. And Nomi, our main character, she's headstrong. She doesn't necessarily love all these sort of antiquated ideas of the 1950s. She's kind of a woman ahead of her time. But she gets the experience of going through this adventure, this Gothic adventure, and of course she grows and learns about herself, and she's just the ultimate person you want to have in this story. So it begins with her father asking Nomi to go to High Place to check on her cousin who has married this man Virgil of this Doyle family. And so Nomi, ends up going basically to the middle of nowhere. So there's kind of that fish out of water scenario to figure out why her cousin sent this sort of, very disturbing letter. It kind of seems like there's something psychologically wrong with her. So, of course, once Nomi gets there, she meets all the requisite sort of Gothic characters. And this includes a romantic lead who, just like in classic Gothic novels, is maybe complicated and brooding and not exactly what you expect. So there's just a lot that I loved. I love the romantic elements. I love the description of setting. I loved the dream sequences. And oh my gosh, it was beautifully written. And in a way, it felt written in the time. There was sort of an old-fashioned way of the narrative as well, and I don't know if that's just how she naturally writes, or if it's just because she was writing in 1950, about 1950, and so it sort of came about that way. But just a lovely old-fashioned type of novel, but yet still resonant for our time. So if you can't tell, I loved everything about it, and I really, really want you to go out and buy Mexican Gothic. You really don't have a reason not to, do you? So please, please, please go buy Mexican Gothic. You'll be swept away. It's one of those books that I've been thinking about since I stopped reading it, and very rarely do I get the little drive or instinct inside me to want to just read a book again right after I read it, but I have that feeling. So that is very high praise. So Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno Garcia. Pick it up today. All right, spooky readers, I'll see you in this scary horror section of books.
We are back, and we just watched Creep 2. Mark, did it live up to your expectations?
I'd say yes. Yeah, I mean, I didn't know what to expect, to be honest with you. But yeah, I'd say they found a new creative way to do like the found footage style filmmaking. So yeah, I bought in 100%.
And I thought, like a dum-dum, because of course they're going to reinvent it. I thought like a dum-dum, oh, it's just going to be another victim and we'll just see another filmmaker die. So obviously, spoiler alert. But no, they were like, oh, guess what? Maybe you have met your match. And he hired someone again on Craigslist and said, if you scare easily, don't apply. And if you like Interview with a Vampire, then, we're meant to be. And so this woman, Sarah, she applies and she gets it. And guess what? She does not scare easily, quote unquote. And she is basically, challenging him throughout this. And that's amazing.
So yeah, I thought it was interesting. He was now named Aaron. That was the guy from the first one who he had killed. I think his name was Joseph in the first one. So maybe he just kind of like takes the name, or I think maybe Aaron was special. So I thought that was pretty interesting too.
Truly. And he talks about, he is absolutely 100% honest with her from the beginning, as soon as they meet. And a fun thing is that when she walks into this new rental, I assume, he's making a green smoothie, which we know about the popularity of green smoothies because in LA because of season 2 of You. And she's like, later, she's like, oh, are you going to kill me with a blender then? And he's like, I have never thought about that. And so, he didn't, spoiler alert, but it was so like on the nose, calling out everything that the first movie did and we would expect. And it was totally cool because they're just like, okay, guess what? You expect this, but Sarah, the character, is going to call it out and call BS.
And she had incentive to kind of keep pushing and keep going because I think she had a show called Encounters she was trying to get, and like nobody was watching it, so she wanted like the best episode. So she thought this guy was like a really good subject, and she just wanted to keep like pushing and pushing and pushing to see where it would go. Like at one point, he just tells her basically to leave, like point blank, and she doesn't. He's in the hot tub by himself. It's kind of a weird scene.
Ew, I know. Like, so that's the thing. That's why it's good. And several found footage movies that I've watched recently have that reason why people keep going. And 2 that I can think of specifically are all about, like, we need more followers, we need more subscribers, and if we don't get that, we don't get this, like, monetary bonus. And she, too, is like, no, I need to make some money, and this is what I want to do with my life. And so it is a reason to stick around. And at the same time, obviously I'd be like, bye, I'm getting the heck out. But as I always tell Mark, he's like, why don't they leave? I'm like, oh, well, that wouldn't be much of a plot now, would it?
That's true. I always just think like, you got to just run into the woods, just go. They're not going to find you. That would not be a good movie. So it's kind of interesting. In the first movie, you don't know where this guy's coming from. He's a little weird and off, but you don't know what's going on. So in this one, you already know what he is and what he's capable of. The opening scene is he basically kills a guy similar to Aaron, but he's kind of having this like midlife crisis, like of a serial killer. Like he doesn't feel the same pleasure from killing, and like he doesn't feel creative and stuff. So I think this documentary thing was a way to get back to it.
It's true. And what I also appreciated with this movie is that, well, obviously they include more people, but they also include more people of color. And so I was thankful for that. It's more diverse, and the antagonist is a woman of color and a woman, because this is maybe the first person to stand up to him. I know I've said this before, but like, good on you, Sarah, for like calling out his BS and challenging him on these things that he's trying to scare her. And in the first movie, Aaron was always scared, and he always like was jump scared, but she wasn't at all. She actually jump scared him several times.
Yeah, I mean, the shoe was on the other foot. I don't know if she completely believed him, because like if someone told you that point blank, like, would you believe them or just think they're, crazy or whatever? So no, but yeah, she definitely matched him and like surpassed him a lot. No, he claims that he has killed 39 people, and that every time he kills somebody, like his spirit and that person's spirit, like he takes something from their spirit, and that's why he said his beard was all patchy and he got some disease from, or some condition from somebody where you pick out your hairs. So, and he did tell the story of his first like encounter thing, which was pretty interesting.
It's so icky. And I mean, I know, I think I've seen it in either movies or documentaries about people who literally like pluck out their eyelashes and have that condition, and I can't even imagine. So, wow.
Yeah, and also in the first movie, he put like A+W like on a rock, or he like carved it into a piece of wood or something. And at one point, they're gonna
A+J, because it was Joseph.
Oh, sorry, A+J. In this one, they're down by this river. They're gonna shoot this thing for the documentary, and in one of the scenes when they're walking around, you see this tree, and there's just like tons of initials carved into the tree. So it's been done before.
Have you ever carved your initials into a desk, which I know like that's old school with like classroom desks, or put your initials in a tree or anything like that with someone else?
I think so. There's this like cabin type thing at the golf course, at Leicester Golf Course, where you can go. It's kind of in the middle of the course where you can go if it's like raining. So this one night it started pouring, not night, but like evening. So me and this dude were just in there for like, I don't know, half hour. So, and there's tons of people have carved their names or initials in there. And I carved something into there. I can't remember what it was, but I tried to. It wasn't great, but I have.
That story was a journey, and I did not know where it would end up, but like me and this dude were in there, and like good for you, Mark, whatever happened. But I mean, yeah, that's fine.
I think we were just drinking. We were golfing. It started raining, so we went in there. So yeah, we were bored. That's why we started carving into the wall. And he might have been smoking weed. I don't know.
Just don't mention names, and it's all good, right? Like nothing illegal is happening here.
A theme in both of these movies is like chopping wood, splitting wood. And Kelly, have you ever done much log splitting or chopping?
So here's the fun fact about my life and my childhood. Both my grandparents in their homes and my home were wood fire burning homes, which is super old school, I guess, compared to, modern day. All three ended up getting furnaces installed, and of course they switched to it. But a lot of my life, it was all about gathering, chopping, and then reloading the wood fire and, the log pile. Mark, have you ever chopped wood?
Yeah, I used to go with your dad, and we'd cut down trees in the woods, and then we would cut them into smaller pieces with the chainsaw, and then we'd load up the truck, bring them back. But then we also would split wood. But he had a hydraulic splitter where you could just put the log in there, and this thing would just push it into this splitter. So that was a lot easier than. But I've also done the log splitting, which it's pretty fun actually. If you can get some good exercise too.
Absolutely. Like, we have been seeing, Campbell and I have been rewatching The Walking Dead, as I've said on previous episodes, and they're getting back to old school techniques, and chopping wood is definitely one of the skills you need to have in the new Walking Dead universe. But also, all I can think of is Chris Evans as Captain America chopping wood, and also just like splitting logs apart with his bare hands. Could you do that, Mark?
No, I can barely do it with a splitter.
Oh, and that's fine. I still love you.
No, another theme that was brought up a lot was Francis Ford Coppola, like how he didn't feel like he was creative anymore, and I think this guy felt like that too. You know,
what is interesting is that literally as we exited Netflix and brought it back to network TV, there was a preview for an Apple TV show directed by Sofia Coppola, starring Bill Murray, which apparently he likes her because he's going to star in another movie directed by her. Like, good for you. And we watched that Bill Murray documentary the other day, and that was very enjoyable.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. It's just about, you hear all these crazy stories about stuff Bill Murray does, like randomly showing up at some party and just going in and like washing the dishes or something. So, no, it was interesting. I would definitely recommend that if you have a few extra hours.
I agree. And Mark pitched it to me as he's like, "Are you a Bill Murray fan?" I'm like, "Well, I don't know. I like a lot of movies he's in." And he's like, "Well, I heard this was good." And guess what? I thoroughly enjoyed it.
So it turns out that, Aaron, as he's called, he acts like he doesn't know anything about Sarah, but he actually does. He knows that she's making the show Encounters. He knows that she has a knife that he later takes away from her. So he knows a lot more than he's letting on.
Oh, and it's such a weird a sequence when he pretends to die by suicide, but he reveals that he was actually wearing a harness after she saves him, quote unquote. And that was just icky feeling because, of course, if you saw someone try to die by suicide in front of you and you're a decent person, you would, absolutely 100% try to save them. And she did, but then he's like, "Oh, guess what? That was all a joke." Like, ha ha, like gross.
So yeah, his big idea for his 40th kill is that he's going to be the one who dies. So first he puts on the Peach Fuzz wolf mask and tries to get her to like chop his head off with the axe, and she won't do it. And then he does the fake hanging, and then she gets all mad and stuff. She's going to leave. And that's when was that before or after they had their kiss?
I don't remember exactly. No, I think the kiss was before. But then he lures her out to the woods and to this grave that was dug. And she's like, "Is that for you or for me?" And he ends up throwing her in there. And like, we think she might be dead. But guess what? She crawls out and hits him in the back of the head with a shovel. But spoiler alert, he's not dead because we see him filming her later.
You kind of skipped over some key details there. Or maybe I missed what you said, but his big idea is that they're going to be like Romeo and Juliet and both kill themselves and like lay in this grave together. So he starts stabbing himself like in the stomach and with her knife, and then he wants her to do it too, but that's when she runs. And that's another time where I'm always like, you just got to run as far as you can. Like, this guy's hurt. But she ends up coming back trying to attack him, and kind of doesn't work out.
Yeah, but she survives. So, I mean, I guess that's the moral of the story or whatever. And what do you think? Was he actually stabbing himself or was it fake?
I think it was real. Like, he was acting like he was in some extreme distress and pain. It was a lot like the end of the first movie, like where somebody comes up behind the other one and then just unknowingly like hits him in the head. But like you were saying, you're like, oh, you got to just keep hitting him and keep hitting him. But I think she hit him once and ran. But like you said, sequel, so.
Yeah, I mean, I assume that these streaming networks are like, even if they wrote the script as that he gets bludgeoned to death, like, actually don't definitively kill him because it might be better if he survives so we can have a third movie. I mean, Duplass, if that works out for you. Oh, P.S. Did I say this yet, that he was nominated? Did I tell you this? Did we talk about it? He was nominated for The Morning Show, which we loved. He didn't win, but you know what won, or who won, is Billy Crudup, is how they pronounced it on the Emmys last night as we're recording this. Oh, yeah. And I don't think he deserved it. Sorry, Billy. Like, don't at me, but I didn't think he was the best performance of the year in that category, but whatever.
Yeah, I thought Duplass had a much bigger role and he probably deserved it a lot more, but that's just my opinion. No, I thought Duplass is perfect for this role because he has a very nice, trusting looking like face and like personality, but then he can also like turn on like, I don't know, like where he just looks like crazy and like just not all there.
No, I get it. And we've talked about this on a previous episode called we called it persona casting, where you cast someone either to gain the audience's approval because you know everything about them. So that example is Tom Hanks in the Mr. Rogers movie, because of course we all love Tom Hanks and he's trustworthy. So yep, we buy into that. Or you do persona casting in order to trick the audience into trusting the person, and then all of a sudden it's like, wait, what? Like, and it's a gut punch. So yeah, I agree with you, because Duplass is pretty likable and reliable, but not in these films.
Yeah, in this one, I mean, assuming you've seen the first one, you know from the very beginning, like, well, you even show in the opening scene, like, that he kills his friend. So you know what he is the whole time, but you still almost feel like, you know, maybe he's not going to, like, do it again, or maybe he's different, or maybe Sarah changed him, but no.
He's still a douchebag. And a line I loved from the beginning of the film is he's just like, we're just a couple of buds enjoying a beer or whatever.
Yeah, and then he just, like, kills his friend, like, with a knife to the throat, and then he's sitting there, he's like, man, it's just not good. And then he, like, takes a sip of beer.
Oh, my goodness. Okay, Mark, we need to rank Creep 2 on a scale of 0 to 10. Now, our scale for the first film on this episode was The Wolf Mask, but I think we need to change our scale for this one. What would you say the scale should change to? I mean, like, the hot tub scene is pretty epic. What else do you feel is super epic?
I mean, there was a kind of funny scene where he gets to that river. It's not what he thought. He thought there'd be a lot more water in it. The airplane goes over, so it ruins that. He has to wait, and then this bird keeps on messing, like, singing.
Should we just say shallow rivers?
Sure. Yeah, definitely.
How many shallow rivers do you give Creep 2?
I'm going to give it 8 shallow rivers. I thought it was really good. I should have asked this earlier. Who was the actress who played Sarah, do you know?
So, Sarah is played by Desiree Akhavan. I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce her name, but she is in The Miseducation of Cameron Post, The Bisexual, and not much else. So, good for her. Mark, how many shallow rivers do you give Creep 2?
I'm going to give it 7 shallow rivers. I thought the actress who played Sarah did a great job. it was nice to have the first one was male. So you're kind of thinking maybe this guy just kills men. But later he admits that he also kills women. But yeah, I thought she did a good job, and their dynamic was really good. Still kept you on the edge of your seat. Like, you want her to get out of there, but she's pulled in because she wants her documentary to be good. I don't know. I enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to the sequel too, hopefully.
I mean, we'll see if there's going to be a sequel. I'm also giving it a 7. I think it was a new spin and a new take on this found footage documentary, hiring someone, serial killer premise. And I love how his character changed and was, he sort of met his match, as we've said. So until next time, we'll see you in the horror section.
Bye.